Hello fellow vet techs, my name is Monica and welcome to Vet Tech 101. In today's video I'm going to give you some tips to pass the VTNE. The VTNE is the Veterinary Technician National Exam. After graduating and getting your Associates in Veterinary Technology from an accredited college, you'll be eligible to take the VTNE. Tip number 1. Do your research before starting any veterinary technology program and make sure that the program you are taking is accredited by the AVMA, which is the American Veterinary Medical Association, or the CVMA, which is the Canadian Veterinary Medical Association. If the college you have graduated from is not accredited by one of the two associations, you will not be eligible to take the VTNE. Once you have graduated from an accredited college, you are now eligible to apply for the VTNE. Part of your application is to send your final transcripts to the AVMA or CVMA. The transcripts must include your graduation date and confirmed degree. The only transcripts that will be accepted is a formal transcript sent by the school in which you attended directly to the AVMA or CVMA. The formal transcripts can either be mailed or emailed by your school. The second way to be eligible to take the VTNE is through an alternative pathway. An alternative pathway is on-the-job training or alternate degrees. However, only 3 states currently allow this, and that is Alaska, California, and Wisconsin. Tip number 2. Even though you may get your credentials through an alternative pathway, if you move to another state, your credentials may not be recognized or approved by that state. If you live in one of these states and want more information, you can go to your state's Board of Veterinary Medicine website to learn more. The VTNE will cost you $330 to take the exam. You'll be given 3 hours to complete the exam. The exam will be based on 170 multiple choice questions. However, you'll only be scored on 150 and the remaining 20 questions will not count towards your score. These 20 questions are pilot questions and are used to help aid in future exams. You'll be tested in 9 major areas: anesthesia, emergency and critical care, pharmacy or pharmacology, pain management, dentistry, laboratory procedures, diagnostic imaging, nursing, and surgical nursing. If special accommodations are needed, go to your state's Board of Veterinary Medicine's website to learn more. Once you picked a date and scheduled your exam, it's time to start prepping. Now, I'm not going to tell you how to study or what's right or wrong when it comes to studying for the exam. Everyone learns differently and has their own way of studying that works for them. For me, I knew I needed to give myself about 1 to 1.5 months prior to the exam to start studying. I didn't want to start studying too early and forget information, but I also wanted enough time to study and not have to cram it all in. After graduation, I began doing research on how to study for the VTNE. I had the book with practice questions, but I didn't like it and wasn't learning anything from it. I found the book to be confusing and not helpful at all. At this point, I began to freak out and knew that I would not pass the VTNE if the book was all I had to study. I then spoke to a couple classmates and they told me about Vet Tech Prep. I went online and did some research and found the website had great reviews. I was skeptical since I had to pay for the program and was hoping the questions weren't like the book. I finally gave in and purchased 1 month prior to the exam. Let me tell you, it was the best decision I made. Vet Tech Prep is my next tip for you. The program works. It's easy to follow and I learned so much. Each question is explained thoroughly and easily to understand. This helped me to understand why I got a question wrong and learn from it. When I first started the program, I was not doing great with the practice exams, but in the end, I was passing every practice exam I took. I studied 1 to 2 hours a day or every other day for the month prior to the exam. The one thing that is nice about Vet Tech Prep now is that they have a mobile app. This is a great way to study anywhere and anytime, even if it's just 10 to 15 minutes. For me, 1 month was perfect amount of time to study for the exam. However, not everyone learns the same way, and you know the best way for you when it comes to studying. My next tip for you is to study. You may have worked in veterinary medicine for 10 or more years and aced all your classes in school. It really doesn't matter. Still take the time to study. They test you in 9 different areas, and trust me, you need to know all of them. Vet Tech Vet techs work in different areas of veterinary medicine, general practice to emergency and specialty hospitals. You may know emergency medicine inside and out, but what about general practice and anesthesia? Just do yourself a favor and hit the books and study. The next tip I have is learning your old school methods and calculations. Yes, nowadays we have digital x-rays and fluid pumps that help make our lives easier. However, the VTNE still covers old school methods such as measuring patients and determining the KVP and MAS for radiographs. It also has calculations to determine how many drips per minute is needed for IV fluids. I can guarantee questions like this will be on the exam. The day of the exam, you should arrive about 30 minutes early. This will give you enough time to check in and get your instructions to take the exam. At the testing center, you will need a valid government ID with photo to be able to take the exam. This can be a driver's license, state-issued ID, alien registration card, Canadian Health ID, passport in English, or a military ID. The testing center will not accept temporary ID cards or any additional ID or documents. No personal items will be allowed in the testing center. All personal items such as keys, phones, watches, calculators, etc. will be placed in a locker and you will be given the key. The testing center will give you some scrap paper and a pencil, and this is all you will have when entering the testing area. A countdown clock will appear on the computer and you'll have access to a calculator on the computer as well. You will be given 3 hours to complete the exam. My next tip is don't rush the exam. Take your time. If you finish early, trust your answers. It took me about 2 hours to finish the exam. I had extra time and thought I would go back and double check my answers. I quickly realized that all this did was have me second guessing my answers. At that point, I realized I have done all I could do, and I told myself I did the best I could. I submitted the exam in what seemed like forever, but I finally got confirmation that I passed the exam. Seeing passed on the computer is the best, most rewarding feeling. All the hard work and studying has paid off. The next step is to wait for your scores to be sent to your state's Board of Veterinary Medicine. Once you pass your state exam and process all the paperwork needed, you will be sent your credentials in the mail. Then you will be officially a credentialed veterinary technician. Just as a little side note, if you miss or are late to take the exam, you may lose your $330 that you paid to take the exam if you do not have a proper excuse. I highly recommend that you get to the testing center on time on the day that you are scheduled to take the exam, so you do not lose out on the money that you spent. If you like this video, please like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my vet tech videos.